Hi everyone, it's Rebecca with linkinglewiscounty.com, and on today's episode of Hear All About It, we have Gina Mallette. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you.
Gina is here representing Constable Hall. You're a board member, correct?
I am.
And why don't you tell us quick why you're here?
Well, our biggest need right now is for volunteers to help maintain our newly renovated garden. We're in the middle of a garden renovation project, and the garden has always been maintained solely by volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
and we really would like...
You need some more volunteers.
Yes, to pad
Yes.
our base of gardeners, and so
Right.
we need...
So you were saying, which I find amazing, the garden is just about as old as Constable Hall itself.
Constable Hall celebrated its 200th anniversary in 2019, and the garden was there as the hall was being built, as far as we can go back in our records. It is among the oldest gardens in the country, has been continually gardened for over 200 years.
Okay. How many, do you roughly have any idea of the different number of species of plants?
There's probably a good 20 to 25 different types of perennials in the gardens. Mm-hmm. And we've had, in 1986, the board had a historical landscaper research the garden using the information in the hall plus other information he had available to him.
That's amazing. I didn't even know there was such a person as a historical gardener. That's amazing.
There are so many careers we don't even have any idea of.
Right.
And this would be a wonderfully interesting career, wouldn't it? But he came up with a plan and used plants that would have been available to the constables, Mary Eliza and William Jr. Constable, at about 1819, 1820, 1840, when the house was fairly new.
Mm-hmm. No, and you also said that, although the garden's been there, it's kind of changed throughout the years depending on who was actually living in the hall at the time. And in wartime, it went from a flower garden to
a victory garden.
Okay.
They grew vegetables to support the troops and the people at home. The garden is basically the same layout. It was much larger at one time, but it is it's a parterre, which is a geometrically shaped garden. It is one large rectangle with 4 smaller rectangles inside it.
Okay.
And then inside each of those 4 small rectangles are 4 triangles. Okay. So there are actually 16 triangles, and they are in the shape of either, some people call it St. Andrew's cross, some people call it St. Patrick's cross. They're basically the same flag design, just different colors. But the garden, the basic design has been there for 200 years.
Wow,
and,
that's amazing.
Different generations of owners have changed it slightly because of different styles of gardening, or
taste.
just to, some people like roses, some people hate roses, that type of thing. The earliest photographs that we have of the garden, and this is part of our renovation project, shows gravel paths. Most people know the garden had turf paths, and the turf paths over the years have spread out. They've misaligned the beds, and we had a board member a couple of years ago spent an inordinate amount of time one summer realigning the beds, making everything symmetrical again. And then
that's amazing.
A couple of years ago, we had a very generous couple, Grace and Harry Rosetto from Virginia and Inlet, visit the garden, and we discussed the history, and they're very big gardeners, or at least Harry is, and they have been very generous in funding the renovation of the garden. And so we have taken out the turf paths. They had become very uneven, and they were kind of a danger to our visitors. It was easy to trip or twist an ankle or something. But he allowed us, his donations have allowed us to take out the turf paths, The two main paths are now handicapped accessible. They are
that's
graveled
wonderful.
with a fine gravel. You can easily push a wheelchair through it. And the interior paths around the smaller triangles are just like driveway gravel. So you can still push a wheelchair through it, but it'd be more challenging. But they're much more level, and they are easily maneuverable
Right.
For people. So now we are going through and edging, putting edging down to maintain the paths, so we don't have to realign beds again.
So it's like the garden not only is going to be weeded, but it's getting a bit of a facelift as well.
It is getting a big facelift.
Yes.
The difference is night and day.
That's
encourage
excellent.
anybody to come, especially our Father's Day weekend. We're going to have our craft fair and car show.
Okay.
So that, and that's when the garden is in full bloom. I mean, the
Right.
lupins and the poppies are out, and it's just gorgeous.
Now, going back to the need for the volunteers, I had asked you, and I think this is important for some of our viewers to understand, is you don't have to be a master gardener to come
goodness, no.
volunteer
No.
and work in the garden.
No.
And the hours are pretty much flexible.
right.
You have a standing meeting time, though, if people want to do it as a group.
Yeah, we usually meet on Thursday mornings throughout the season. So if somebody wants to come up on a Thursday morning, depending on the temperature in the day,
Right.
some of us are there at 7 o'clock just trying to, take advantage of the cooler temperatures. But usually from 9 to noon we're there on a Thursday morning. But we understand people's schedules just don't accommodate Thursday mornings most of the time. So
Right.
we need to be flexible because the garden is maintained solely by volunteers. So we need to be flexible, and we're more than glad to be flexible. Some people want to come in the evening when it's cooler. Some people want to come on a weekend. That's fine, but
Right. And I'm sure for somebody that, is new to volunteering or just new to the gardening aspect, you or one of the more seasoned volunteers would explain to them.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what we need you to do. You also mentioned too that maybe people could actually kind of maintain their own little section if they wanted to, be like, this is where we want to work in this area.
that's right.
Okay.
We I say if you can come once, great. If
Right.
you can come once a week, that's even better. If you want to come once in a while, we can always use the help. We're not
Sure.
going to turn down help.
No.
I will meet with anybody who wants to come up, find out what they're interested in doing, and I'm sure we'll find a spot for them.
Sure.
And I can explain, which ones are the plants and which ones are the weeds.
Yeah. Right.
It's pretty obvious.
Right.
And pretty much we need weeders and people to deadhead and maintain things. But we've tried a couple of different times to promote an Adopt a Triangle program where a group of people can take a triangle. They can be families, extended families, cousins.
Right.
They can be a group of friends, a group of coworkers.
Right. And like you mentioned too,
organizations.
FFA groups, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops.
They've come up, and ideally, if one or two people, I would say two people, can give a triangle 2 hours a week.
Okay.
That pretty much keeps everything
Covers,
maintained and under control. So if you've got a group of friends or coworkers or even family members that maybe you could get 6 or 8 of them together, well, then you could make a schedule up, and maybe everybody would only have to come up once a month.
Right.
You could do a rotating schedule with pairs of people.
Sure.
And that wouldn't, it's summertime. People are reluctant to make a lot of commitments in the summertime.
Sure.
They want to take advantage of their
Right.
time and enjoy themselves. So this would not really infringe too much upon that. So
I had asked you too, which was kind of a funny question, being where we are in northern New York here, about when this would actually start.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah, right. You're not really sure it's going to be as Mother Nature, allows, but you're thinking somewhere early May for volunteers to start.
Yeah.
Okay. How will volunteers? How should they get a hold of you?
they can give me a call at 315-348-8280. My email is gmallette54@gmail.com. or they can call the hall at 315-397-2323 and leave a message, and I'll get the
Perfect.
message. And
Excellent.
yes, so
Well, we certainly hope that from you coming in here today, you get some volunteers.
Oh,
It
we
is
do.
such a beautiful building,
It
such
is.
a beautiful garden. We are so lucky to have that in our area, and I thank you for all the time that you've put in volunteering, and hopefully we get you some help up there in that beautiful garden.
It would be wonderful. I encourage everybody to come. There have been a lot of changes over the last couple of years. There's been, the garden itself is like night and day with the new paths, and but there have been changes in the hall, and I encourage people to come and see it because it really is the jewel of the North Country. That's that's our
agree
little
with you.
hashtag, and it really is.
I agree with
There's
you.
so much history there that people aren't aware of.
Right, and it's right in their own backyard.
They were friends with, Alexander Hamilton. I mean,
Right.
these are,
Local
it's just
celebrities.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right. Well, we really appreciate you coming in,
Well, I
Gina,
appreciate
and I hope this gets you a lot of volunteers.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and boast about Constable Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you.